My family chose my cheating ex and golden boy brother over me. But when karma hit hard, I was the only one left standing. I'm a 28-year-old guy who recently got divorced. My ex-wife, who's 26, cheated on me with my 26-year-old brother. Yeah, that happened. I'll get to that in a minute, but let me start from the beginning so everything makes sense. About a year ago, my brother reached out to me. He wanted to reconnect after years of not talking. Now, you need to understand, growing up, my brother was always the golden child. He could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, and I was just there. It wasn't that they were outright cruel, but I was definitely the afterthought. They made sure he got the best, the attention, everything. That's probably why I left home when I turned 18 and didn't really look back. For years, we didn't speak much. I was doing my own thing, got a decent job, got married, and tried to build a life for myself. But then, last year, my brother sent me a message saying that he and our parents missed me and wanted to make things right. I don't know what made me agree to it, but I did. I thought, maybe people change, right? Maybe they really wanted to fix things. So, I let my brother back into my life. At first, things seemed fine. He started coming around more often, and I introduced him to my wife. They got along well, or so I thought, but after a few months, I started noticing things that didn't sit right with me. My brother was coming over more frequently, sometimes even when I wasn't home. My wife would brush it off, saying they were just hanging out, but I couldn't shake the weird feeling I had. Then, about 4 months ago, my wife dropped a big piece of news. She was pregnant. At first, I was thrilled. I mean, we were married, and I thought we were happy, so naturally I assumed the baby was mine. But something felt off. My brother's visits increased, and every time I'd see him around my wife, there was this tension I couldn't ignore. He'd make comments about the baby, touch her stomach, and say weird things that made me uncomfortable. I tried to convince myself I was overthinking it. I wanted to trust my wife, but the more I thought about it, the more things didn't add up. One night, after she went to bed, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed her phone while she was sleeping and started scrolling through her messages, and there it was, the proof I didn't want to find. She had been cheating on me with my brother for months, and the baby wasn't even mine, it was his. I felt sick. I sat there for what felt like hours, just staring at the screen, trying to wrap my head around it. Eventually, I woke her up and confronted her. She tried to deny it at first, but when I showed her the messages, she couldn't lie anymore. She admitted everything. She'd been sleeping with my brother behind my back, and they were planning to tell me about the affair after the baby was born. I couldn't believe it. I just packed a bag and left. The next day, I called my parents to tell them what had happened, thinking maybe, for once, they'd have my back. But nope. They sided with my brother. They said he'd made a mistake, that I should be the bigger person, and that I needed to forgive him for the sake of the family. I couldn't believe it. My own family, who had been estranged from me for years, was now telling me to forgive the same guy who wrecked my marriage. That's when I decided I was done with all of them. I told my parents I didn't want anything to do with them or my brother, and I filed for divorce. I thought that would be the end of it, but of course, things didn't end there. During the divorce proceedings, my ex tried to milk me for everything I had. She and my brother concocted this story that painted me as controlling and toxic, and of course, my family backed them up. It was like I was the villain in this twisted version of reality where they were the victims, and I was the bad guy. In the end, she walked away with a decent chunk of my money, but I managed to keep the house, which was a small victory. So, now, here I am, divorced, cut off from my family, and trying to pick up the pieces of my life. It's been 2 months since everything blew up, and honestly, I'm still trying to figure out how to move on. I'm working more, trying to focus on myself, but it's not easy. Every now and then, something will remind me of what happened, and it all comes flooding back. But you know what? I'm done with them. My brother, my ex, my parents, they can all have each other. I don't need them. I've spent my whole life being the second choice, the one who gets overlooked, and I'm not going to live like that anymore. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing, I'm never letting them back into my life again. Alright, so here's where things got worse, if you can believe that. After I left my ex and decided to cut ties with my family, I figured they'd let me move on in peace. I mean, it's not like I had anything left to do with them, right? My wife cheated on me with my brother, my parents took his side, and I was done with all of them. But no, It wasn't that simple. About a month after the divorce, my mom called me out of the blue. Now keep in mind, I hadn't spoken to her since I left that day when she basically told me to forgive my brother for wrecking my life. I wasn't really in the mood to talk, but she kept calling over and over. I finally picked up just to see what she wanted. Right away she went into this whole guilt trip speech about how family is family and, no matter what, we should all stick together. She said my brother was really struggling, that he'd been having a hard time finding a job, and that now, with the baby and all, they were really tight on money. She said they'd been relying on the settlement my ex-wife got in the divorce, but that was running out, and they needed more help. Then she dropped the real kicker. She asked me to help them out. Yeah, you read that right. The same family that threw me under the bus when my wife cheated on me with my brother was now asking me for money to support them. I swear I almost laughed when she said it. I was like, are you serious right now? You're asking me to help the guy who slept with my wife? You want me to pay for their mess? But she just kept going on about how they're really struggling, how it's not fair to the baby, how I should be the bigger person. I couldn't believe it. After everything they'd put me through, they had the nerve to come to me for help. I told my mom no, straight up no. I wasn't going to give them a dime. I told her they could figure it out on their own, just like I had to after they all turned their backs on me. But she wasn't having it. She started crying, saying how I was being selfish, how I wasn't thinking about the baby, how my brother was really sorry and just needed a second chance. She tried to make me feel like the bad guy for not helping them out, but I wasn't falling for it. I told her that this was their problem, not mine, and I wasn't going to get involved. I hung up the phone, thinking that would be the end of it. But no, a few days later, my brother showed up at my apartment. I don't even know how he found out where I lived. But there he was, standing at my door like nothing had happened. I didn't want to let him in, but he wouldn't leave, so I figured I'd hear him out just to get him to go away. He started off by saying he was sorry, that he messed up, that he never meant for any of this to happen. He said he and my ex didn't plan for things to get this far, and he didn't think it would hurt me this much. I just stared at him, wondering if he really believed the crap he was saying. Like, how could he not think it would hurt me? He stole my wife and my chance at having a family, and now he's standing here trying to act like it was some kind of accident. Then he hit me with this. He said he'd been having trouble finding a job since the affair came out, and now that they had the baby, they were really struggling. He said he knew I was doing well at my job, and he was hoping I could help him out until he got back on his feet. I didn't know whether to laugh or punch him in the face. I mean, seriously, this guy sleeps with my wife, gets her pregnant, and now he wants me to give him money? I just stood there for a minute, not even knowing what to say. Finally, I told him to get lost. I told him he and my ex made their bed, and now they had to lie in it. I wasn't going to bail them out, and I definitely wasn't going to give him any money. He tried to argue, saying that I was being immature and holding on to a grudge, but I wasn't having any of it. I told him he was lucky I didn't knock him out right then and there. That's when things took a turn. My brother, who's usually all smug and arrogant, suddenly got really pissed. He started yelling at me, saying how I'd always been jealous of him, how I'd always been bitter because our parents treated him better. He said that I was only refusing to help because I was still mad that my ex picked him over me. At this point, I was just staring at him, completely dumbfounded. This guy really thought he was the victim in all this. He kept going on about how it wasn't fair that I wouldn't help out, how he had a kid now, and how I should let go of the past. He even had the nerve to say that I should be grateful he stepped in because my ex didn't love me anymore anyway. That was it for me. I told him to get out before I called the cops. I wasn't going to stand there and let him throw that in my face like I hadn't already lost everything because of him. He finally left, but not before throwing one last jab at me, saying that I'd regret not helping him, that one day I'd need something from him, and he wouldn't be there. I laughed in his face and told him I'd rather live on the street than ever ask him for anything. After that, I thought maybe they'd finally leave me alone, but of course, that was wishful thinking. About a week later, my dad called me. Now, I hadn't spoken to my dad since the divorce either, and I figured he was calling to do the same thing my mom and brother had already tried, guilt me into helping them. And I was right. He started off all calm, asking how I was doing, acting like everything was normal. I wasn't in the mood for small talk, so I cut him off and asked what he wanted. He went into this whole speech about how I was the only one in the family who was doing well right now. and how my brother and my ex were going through a tough time. He said that, as a family, we needed to support each other and that I should help them out because they had the baby to think about. I told him flat out no. I wasn't going to help them, and I didn't care about their situation. He tried to argue, saying that I was being selfish, that I wasn't thinking about the bigger picture. He said that if I didn't help now, I'd regret it later because family is all that matters in the end. But you know what? I've been through enough to know that's not true. Sometimes, family isn't the people who share your blood. It's the people who stand by you when everyone else turns their back. And my family? They turned their back on me the second they decided my brother's happiness was more important than mine. So, I told my dad the same thing I told my mom and brother. I was done. I didn't want anything to do with them, and I wasn't going to be their safety net anymore. I hung up, blocked their numbers, and haven't looked back since. Alright, so here's where things went from just bad to completely ridiculous. After telling my dad I was done and blocking their numbers, I really thought that was it. I mean, how many times can they come back and ask for money, right? Turns out, I was dead wrong because they weren't done yet. The next person to try and get in touch with me was my ex-wife. Yeah, the same woman who cheated on me with my brother, got pregnant with his kid, and somehow had the nerve to think I'd still care about what she had to say. It started with a random text from her. She wrote something like, "I know you don't want to talk, but I really need to explain things." I didn't even respond. What was there to explain? She screwed me over, and that was that. But apparently, me ignoring her didn't send the message, so, a couple of days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I picked it up, and guess who it was? Yep, my ex. I was about to hang up, but she started crying right away, saying how she didn't know who else to turn to. She went on about how things with my brother were falling apart, how he'd been out of work, and how they could barely afford to pay the bills. And then she hit me with the whole, "you have to help for the sake of the baby" nonsense. Like, seriously, why on earth would I help them after everything? I told her flat out, no, not my problem. You made your bed, now lie in it. But she just kept going. She said that she knew she messed up, but she thought I'd understand because we were married once, and that should count for something. She even tried to play the "remember all the good times we had" card, like that would magically make me forget how she destroyed our marriage by hooking up with my own brother. Here's the thing, I wasn't even angry at her anymore by this point. I was just tired. Tired of her, tired of my brother, tired of my whole family acting like I owed them something after all the crap they pulled. So, I told her straight up, "I don't owe you anything. You're with my brother now, so he's your problem, not me." That's when she started getting desperate. She started saying stuff like, "What about the baby? Don't you care about him? He could have been yours." That one stung a little, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I always wanted kids, and for a minute there, I thought I was going to be a dad. But then I remembered the baby isn't mine, and honestly, that's not on me anymore. I told her, "Look, the baby isn't mine, and it's not my job to take care of him or you. You've got a whole family who took your side, remember? Go ask them for help." And I hung up. After that, I figured they'd finally get the hint and leave me alone. Spoiler alert, they didn't. A few days later, I'm at work, just trying to get through the day, when my boss came over to my desk. He looked kind of awkward, which was weird because we usually get along really well. He's like, "Hey man, there's someone here to see you." I'm thinking, who the hell would come to my job? So, I walked out to the lobby, and guess who's standing there? My freaking mom. At this point, I'm just about done with all of this. I mean, who shows up at someone's workplace unannounced? She started right in on me the second I stepped into the lobby. She's like, "Why are you ignoring us? We're family, and family doesn't abandon each other." I told her I wasn't abandoning anyone, I was just done with their nonsense. But she wasn't having it. She started crying, like full-on sobbing in front of everyone in the lobby, about how I was punishing the whole family for one mistake. She said my brother was in a really bad place right now, and that they were all struggling because of me. I looked her dead in the eye and told her, "You're not struggling because of me. You're struggling because you chose to side with my brother after he destroyed my marriage. That's on you, not me." She kept going though, saying how they didn't know things would turn out like this, and how they just wanted to make things right, but I didn't buy it for a second. I told her I wasn't going to stand there and argue with her in the middle of my workplace, and that if she wanted to talk, She could call me if I decided to unblock her number. That shut her up pretty quick. She gave me this whole speech about how I was better than this, and how she raised me to be more forgiving. I almost laughed. Raised me? The same parents who spent my whole childhood putting my brother on a pedestal and treating me like I didn't exist? Yeah, okay. I told her that if she didn't leave, I'd have security escort her out. That's when she really lost it. She started yelling, calling me selfish, saying how I was letting my pride get in the way of helping my family. I just stood there, completely done with the whole thing. Finally, she stormed out, still shouting about how I was going to regret this. I went back to my desk, and my boss just gave me this look like, what the hell was that about? I didn't even bother explaining what could I say. Sorry, my mom showed up to guilt-trip me into giving money to the brother who cheated with my wife? Yeah, that would go over well. I just told him it was family drama and left it at that. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, just trying to focus on work. But all I could think about was how my family had gone from screwing me over to straight up harassing me. I mean, they were showing up at my job now. What's next? Them camping out in front of my apartment? That night, I finally decided enough was enough. I sent my mom, dad, brother, and even my ex-wife one last message. I told them all the same thing: don't contact me again. I'm done with this family, and I don't want anything to do with you. Stop harassing me, or I'll get a restraining order. Harsh? Maybe. But I was over it. I'd already lost my marriage, my future plans, and any chance at a normal relationship with my family. I wasn't about to let them keep coming back to tear me down even more. And you know what? For the first time in months, I actually felt a little bit of peace after sending those messages. It was like I finally took control of my own life, even if it meant cutting out the people who were supposed to care about me the most. And honestly, I don't regret it. Not one bit. Let's see if they actually leave me alone this time, though. Something tells me this isn't over. So, after sending that final message telling my family to leave me alone, I thought, maybe, just maybe, I'd finally get some peace. I mean, how many times do you have to tell people to back off before they get the hint, right? Well, turns out my family doesn't understand boundaries, because it wasn't even a week later that my dad showed up at my apartment. Yeah, no text, no call, just standing at my door like nothing's wrong. I opened the door, and there he was, acting all casual like he's just swinging by for a chat. He gave me that fake smile he always does when he's trying to get something out of me, and I immediately knew this wasn't going to be a friendly visit. He started off with, "Son, we need to talk." I'm already annoyed because seriously, what now? Haven't they all done enough? I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and told him to make it quick. I wasn't in the mood to deal with more guilt-tripping or begging for money. He went right into it, no warm-up this time, just straight to the point. He said, "Your brother and your mother are struggling. Things aren't looking good, and they really need help. You're doing well for yourself now, aren't you? You could easily lend a hand." I couldn't believe it. After everything, this was still their priority, making sure my brother was okay while I got tossed aside like I didn't matter. I cut him off right there and told him, I'm not giving them any money. I'm not helping them out, and I'm done with this conversation. But he wasn't done. He kept pushing, saying how family helps family, how they were all going through a rough patch and needed me to step up. Step up? The audacity of that just hit me like a brick. I've been stepping up my whole life while they've treated me like nothing. I told him flat out, "You've never stepped up for me, not once. When my wife was cheating on me with my brother, where were you when I needed you? You were on their side, not mine. So don't come here asking me to step up now." He just stood there for a second, like he wasn't expecting me to actually push back. Then he tried to play the guilt card, of course. He said, "I know we've made mistakes, but we're still your family. We'll always be your family." It's like they think that just saying the word family automatically erases all the crap they've put me through. I was done playing nice. I told him, "Family, you're not my family anymore, not after everything you've done. You threw me away for him, and now you expect me to save you?" No, that's not how this works. He started getting defensive, saying how I was being dramatic and how I needed to stop holding a grudge. He said my brother had made a mistake, but that I was overreacting by cutting everyone off. That word overreacting just set me off. I told him, "You think I'm overreacting? My wife slept with my brother. The child she's raising should have been my kid. You all stood by and watched it happen, then asked me to forgive him like nothing ever happened. And now you have the nerve to come here and ask me to help you? That's not overreacting, that's setting boundaries." He was clearly pissed now but trying to keep it together. He said, "We didn't know things would turn out like this. We just wanted to keep the peace in the family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Keep the peace? How is letting my brother wreck my marriage keeping the peace? It was so typical of them though. They've always tried to sweep things under the rug, act like nothing's wrong, and expect me to just go along with it. I told him, "Keeping the peace is just code for ignoring the real problem. You've been ignoring me my whole life, pretending everything's fine as long as my brother's happy. Well, I'm not ignoring it anymore. I'm done." And with that, I turned and started walking back to my door. But of course he wasn't done. He grabbed my arm, which, let me tell you, was a bad move on his part. I yanked my arm away and told him, "Don't touch me." He looked at me like he didn't even recognize the person standing in front of him. I think he really believed I'd just cave, like I used to when I was a kid. But I'm not that kid anymore, and I wasn't about to let them manipulate me into giving them what they wanted. Before he left, he tried one last guilt trip. He said, "You'll regret this one day. You'll see that family is all that matters." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "No, respect is what matters, and I haven't gotten any from you or anyone else in this family. So no, I won't regret this." He stood there for a second like he was about to say something, but then he just shook his head and walked away. When I got back inside, I just sat there, trying to process everything. It was like, no matter what I did, they couldn't accept that I wasn't going to be a part of their mess anymore. They couldn't handle the fact that I wasn't playing by their rules, and it drove them crazy. I guess part of me was hoping that, after all this time, maybe they'd finally realize how badly they messed up. Maybe they'd apologize or at least acknowledge the pain they caused. But that was just wishful thinking. They don't see what they did wrong. They never will. In their minds, I'm the bad guy for walking away. I'm the one breaking up the family. But you know what? I'm okay with that. If standing up for myself means I'm the bad guy in their story, then fine, I'll be the bad guy. I'm not going to let them guilt me into being their doormat again. After my dad left, I blocked him too. I didn't want to deal with any more surprise visits or phone calls. I knew they'd keep trying, but at least, for now, I could get some peace. Or at least that's what I thought. A few days later, my phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, figuring it was just another attempt to get to me. But when I checked the message later, I realized it wasn't from my family at all. It was from a lawyer. My ex-wife was trying to sue me for more alimony. That was the final straw. I'm not the same person I was when all this started. I've learned that sometimes you have to fight back. So, now I'm gearing up for the legal battle. I've been through hell, but if they want to keep pushing, I'll push right back. This time, they're not going to win. I'm done being the one who gets stepped on. So, after getting that voicemail from the lawyer saying my ex-wife was trying to get more alimony out of me, I knew it was time to fight back. I wasn't going to let her or my family drag me through the mud anymore. Enough was enough. First things first, I got in touch with my lawyer. I told him everything that's been going on, from my ex trying to get more money to my family harassing me non-stop. He was just as fed up as I was and said we needed to put an end to this once and for all. So we started working on a case. Turns out she didn't have much of a leg to stand on. She was already getting a decent settlement from the divorce, and there was no real reason for her to ask for more. But you know how some people are. They'll keep pushing until they get what they want or until someone stops them. I decided I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. And I wasn't going to let my family keep manipulating me either. My lawyer and I built up a solid defense, and we even found some loopholes that could potentially get me out of paying alimony altogether. That's when things started getting interesting. A few days before the court date, my brother, yes, him again, decided to reach out. This time, he sent me this long-winded email trying to play the big brother role. It was all about how he regretted how things turned out, and how he missed having me in his life. I could practically hear his fake sincerity through the words. He even tried to say that the affair wasn't really what it seemed, that it was a mistake, and they didn't mean to hurt me. Yeah, sure, a mistake that lasted months and resulted in a kid, right? I didn't respond to the email because, honestly, what was the point? I knew he was only reaching out because he and my ex were scared they might lose the alimony, and they were probably hoping to guilt-trip me into backing down. But there was no way I was going to let that happen. I was done with them. They had their chance to fix things, and they blew it repeatedly. So the court date finally rolled around, and I was ready. My lawyer had everything set, and we were walking in there prepared for whatever they threw at us. My ex and her lawyers showed up, and surprise, surprise, she's got my brother with her for support. I wasn't shocked, but it was still annoying seeing them together, acting like they weren't the ones who blew up my life. They didn't even have the decency to look ashamed or embarrassed about it. They just sat there, whispering to each other and pretending like they were the victims in all this. When it was finally our turn to present the case, my lawyer laid it all out. He brought up how my ex was already getting more than enough from the divorce settlement, how she wasn't entitled to more money just because things weren't going well for her. He even pointed out that she'd been dishonest during the divorce proceedings, hiding the fact that she and my brother had been seeing each other for months before the divorce was finalized. Basically, we made it clear that she didn't deserve a penny more from me. Her lawyer tried to argue that she needed more money to support the baby, again, not my kid, but it didn't really hold up. My lawyer shut that down quick. He said it wasn't my responsibility to take care of their kid, and the judge seemed to agree. The best part? My lawyer had also gathered evidence of my family's harassment over the past few months. The texts, the surprise visits, my mom showing up at my job, all of it. He presented it to the judge as proof that they were trying to manipulate and pressure me into giving them money. The judge wasn't impressed with their behavior, and you could see the look on my ex's face when she realized things weren't going her way. By the end of it, the judge ruled in my favor. Not only did my ex not get any more alimony, but they actually reduced the amount I was paying her. The judge saw right through her act and decided that she didn't deserve as much as she'd originally gotten. It was the best outcome I could have hoped for. After the ruling, my ex and brother stormed out of the courtroom without saying a word to me. I could see the anger and frustration on their faces, and honestly, it felt good. For the first time in this whole mess, I felt like I'd actually won. I wasn't the one getting walked all over anymore. But it didn't end there. A few days after the court ruling, my dad tried to call me again. He left a voicemail, something about how I'd ruined the family and how I was tearing everyone apart. I didn't even listen to the whole thing. I just deleted it and blocked his number again. I wasn't going to let them pull me back into their drama. I was done, for real this time. And honestly, I feel free now. For the first time in years, I'm not carrying the weight of my family's expectations or my ex's lies or my brother's betrayal. I'm just me. I've cut them all out, and I'm focusing on myself. It's not always easy, and yes, sometimes it still hurts to think about everything that happened, but I'm not letting it control my life anymore. Since the court case, I've been focusing on my work, my friends, and just living my life. I'm not going to lie and say everything's perfect now because it's not. I still have moments where I get angry, where I think about what could have been if things had gone differently. But those moments are getting fewer and farther between. The truth is, I'm better off without them, my family, my ex. They were toxic, and it took me a long time to see it, but now I do. I'm never going back to that life. I've got a fresh start now, and I'm not going to waste it. So, yeah, that's the end of it. My family tried to screw me over, my ex tried to take more than she deserved, but in the end, I came out on top. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to find out. And if they ever try to come back into my life again, well, let's just say I'm not afraid to fight back anymore. Update 1. Alright, so here's where things took another turn I wasn't expecting. After the whole mess with the divorce and cutting my family off, I thought I was finally done with all their nonsense. But you know what they say, right? When it rains, it pours. I should have known they wouldn't just leave me alone. A few weeks ago, I got a message from someone I hadn't spoken to in years, my aunt. Now, let me explain a little bit about her. She's my dad's sister, and growing up, we were never really close. She kind of stayed out of family drama, so I didn't think much of her. But apparently she's been keeping up with everything going on because she heard about my divorce and reached out. At first, I thought maybe she was just checking in, seeing how I was doing. But nope, she had her own agenda, just like everyone else in my family. She started by saying she was worried about my parents, and how the whole situation had torn the family apart. Then she jumped right into asking me if I would reconsider talking to them again. She said they were struggling without me, and that it wasn't too late to fix things. I was honestly stunned. Like, are you serious? After everything that happened, I'm the one who's supposed to fix things? I told her straight up that I wasn't interested in fixing anything. I made it clear that they were the ones who threw me under the bus, not the other way around. And I wasn't going to pretend like everything was fine just because they were struggling now. She tried to guilt trip me, saying things like, "Your dad isn't getting any younger, and family is all we've got at the end of the day." I've heard it all before, and it didn't work then, and it definitely wasn't working now. I told her the same thing I told my parents. I don't owe them anything. I'm not going to be the one to sweep everything under the rug just because they've decided now's the time they want me back in their lives. She didn't take that too well. She started getting defensive, saying how my parents were just trying to do what's best for everyone and that I needed to let go of my anger. I wasn't even angry at that point, just exhausted from having the same conversation over and over. I told her that if she really cared about the family, maybe she should have stepped in when all this was happening, instead of showing up now when it's convenient for her. The conversation ended pretty quickly after that. She said she was disappointed in me, which, honestly, was kind of laughable. Disappointed in me? The one person in this family who's actually tried to stand up for themselves? Yeah, okay. So, that's where I'm at now. They're still trying to pull me back in, still trying to make me feel like the bad guy for not wanting to deal with their drama. But I'm not falling for it. I've come too far to go back now. I've got my own life to live, and I'm not going to spend it cleaning up their messes